What's going on YouTube? This is JL Mussi, and today has been a long time coming. I'm going to be showing you my 3D printed Mortal Kombat Scorpion mask based off the Mortal Kombat 9 version of the character. So I basically modeled the mask on top of some scan data of myself. So if I put it on, you see that it fits exactly to my face. This was printed on this gigantic beast back here, which is my Raise 3D N2 Plus. And I feel really good about this because I think it turned out pretty good, but this was the model or the project that actually got me into 3D printing. All right, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's get on to the breakdown on how this bad boy was created. I started my project by going to a local studio and having my whole body and head scanned, which then produced high quality scan data, which I could then bring into a 3D program. Back around 2015, when I was creating this project, my 3D modeling package of choice was a program called Softimage. And man, that was a great modeling package. If you could see my face right now, I have a little tear coming down because man, I just loved it so much. Eventually, since Autodesk stopped supporting it, I did pretty much go back to Maya. I did use plenty of reference, mainly screenshots from the video game, as well as some concept art from different artists. I did model the headband originally, and I was gonna incorporate it into the design, but I ended up chopping it off and going more with something that resembled the character's design from Mortal Kombat 1 and 2. I did end up modeling some of the other details that were never going to be 3D printed, including the grill that goes inside of the mask, and also the head covering that would essentially be cloth and cover the rest of my head. I also played around with a hooded version of the character as the Mortal Kombat 10 version was coming out at that time, and I wanted to experiment how that mask would actually look with an actual hood on. Once I finished the modeling within Softimage, I exported the mesh into ZBrush to add some sculpted details, and this pushed the piece a lot closer to the actual video game concept and final look. Now that the model was fully finished, I had one little problem. I had no 3D printer. I knew I was going to be in this for the long game as far as creating cosplay and 3D printing my own models. So it was reasonable that I go ahead and invest and purchase my own printer. After a lot of research, I knew that I wanted a large build volume, and I ended up purchasing the Raise 3D N2 Plus. So I was pretty good at 3D modeling, and I figured, hey, how hard can this 3D printing stuff be? You just upload your model, hit print, go to sleep, wake up, and there's your finished model. But boy, was I wrong. So I had to go through a little bit of the learning curve for 3D printing my own models, including creating supports, the right type of settings, layer heights, and the list goes on and on. It was quite a bit of trial and error, especially looking back at it. This model was not the easiest for a rookie to start printing, especially with these little legs and these little details. I had a lot of issues. First off, the supports were too weak, they would break. And then secondly, even when I did thicken up the supports, there wasn't enough contact with the actual legs, so parts of it would actually still break off. Eventually, I dialed the settings, I got things to work, and the print finished successfully. I did what every responsible adult does as soon as one of their masks is done 3D printing. They lock themselves in the bathroom, slap it on, and take a video. All jokes aside, I did want to get a good fitting and just kind of an idea how the finished mask will look once I put the Under Armour mask underneath. So I did end up doing a quick paint test on this. I bought some Rust-Oleum Antique Gold, spread it on, and then with some brushes did a quick weathering. The results were okay, but I knew that I had to improve down the line. I also ended up doing a second version of the mask where I went up higher on the infill, and also I designed a back piece to actually support the grates that would be glued onto the back of the mask. With the final version of the mask printed, it was time for my favorite part of the whole process, which was sanding and priming. And I'm actually just lying through my teeth. I don't like sanding. I don't know a lot of people that do, but I did have quite a bit of experience at this point, as I had just did quite a bit of post-processing on my Apocalypse 3D printed bust. So I started with about a 80 to 100 grit sandpaper and really just knock out most of the rough parts of the model and also clean away any remnants of supports. From the coarser sandpaper, I graduated up to about 2 to 300. I also invested in some standing sticks, which really make getting into the nooks and crannies of this mask a lot easier. And the nice thing about these is that the sandpaper actually rotates and allows you to just basically move through unused pieces of it. In the description down below, I dropped links to all the items and materials used in this video. So with the piece sanded, it was time to bust out one of my favorite primers, which is the Tamiya Fine Surface Primer, which does a really nice job and it really just leaves a smooth finished surface. I did go back and with about 400 to 500 grit sandpaper, I did wet sand this to get it just that much smoother. And I did go with the higher sanding sticks and go back into the nooks and crannies of the mask. So now we're getting to the exciting part. It was time to slap the base coat of color onto the mask. I actually had quite a bit of experience airbrushing, as I did a lot of it during college just to make some extra money on the side, mainly doing t-shirts and custom shoes. I found a weathering technique which actually used the salt from margaritas. So basically you just damp the mask or whatever item you want to go ahead and weather, and then you throw the salt on. You would airbrush the darker color. You would ultimately get this splattered slash weathered look if you dropped a darker color on top. Then with a wet sponge, I pretty much went through and kind of art directed and blended out some of it because I did go a little bit heavy on the effect. After the base coat of weathering, I took a Vallejo brown and went inside of the creases or the recessed areas. Pretty much any small areas where grunge and grime would build up. And man, I'm gonna tell you something right now, for all my subscribers that do 3D work, this weathering stuff is a lot easier in Substance Painter. And after that, I basically took a small brush and I really just outlined really just the crevices to give just some nice accent to the panel lines and the darker areas. Once the mask was fully painted, it was time to cut out the metal mesh for the actual grates of the mask. So it took me a little bit of research initially, as 3D printing something like this probably wouldn't be optimal. I ended up finding one of these office bins. This is a pretty common material found in trash bins or these little organizational bins for your office. You can pick them up anywhere from Office Depot or even Amazon. So basically I lined up the piece and then with a Sharpie, I made a rough pattern of the cutout. Then I attached a grinding disc to my Dremel, and then I got on my grind. Get it? Grinding disc, grind. Okay, anyways, so once the metal mesh was fully separated from the bin, I did make some minor modifications to get it to fit to the mask a little bit better. With both grates cut perfectly to size, it was time to glue the grates down to the mask. I decided to go with my go-to glue, which is Insecure, which seemed to do a pretty good job. And then I decided to not take any chances and actually weld the rest of the grate to the mask using my trusted 3D pen. So I did end up clear coating the mask twice. One initially with the base color on to seal in all the colors before I did the weathering, and then secondly, once the mask was completely done, I went through with the same Vallejo matte clear coat to just protect all the color work that I've done. It's pretty surreal to create something completely on the computer and then 3D print it yourself, paint it, and truly bring it to life. And that's what I want to urge anybody that's a 3D artist, or maybe you 3D print somebody else's models, to put the work in to learn one of those disciplines. So if you're a 3D artist, learn the 3D printing side, and if you already know the 3D printing side, put some effort and maybe learn the 3D modeling, because at the end of the day, there's nothing like being able to wear or hold your own artwork in your hands. Completing this mask has been tremendously satisfying for me on an artistic level, and I had so many setbacks, so much failure, and I learned so much. And just like anything in life where things are difficult, if you just put your head down, you keep pounding at the wall, eventually you'll break through. And just those setbacks and those pitfalls make the finish line that much sweeter once you get there. Obviously, this outfit is far from finished. Next on the hit list is the forearm armor, and I'll move down the line to complete the costume. As you can see in these pictures, the shoulder armor is almost done. It just has to be weathered. Once that is completed, I will do a similar breakdown video for those as well. And I really just overall look forward to cosplaying, hit up some conventions, and keep printing some of my 3D models and bring those to life. So I really appreciate your time. Thanks for watching, folks, and I will catch you in the next video.